today on the 80 Trans Am, we're going to try to fix the pinion angle. You know how good you can tell that pinion angle is going up, and it should be facing down, because when you take off in the car, it's going to pivot up some, which we've had this car 130 mile an hour and there is no vibration, but I'd like to fix that. Plus the drive shaft is sticking out of the transmission. You can't see it, but it's sticking out of the transmission a little bit farther than what I like. And when you push that pinion angle down the other way, it'll push the drive shaft up some. But what we got to do is take out these 4 nuts off the U-joints, and then these pinion shims are going to go right in there, and it'll pivot it up, which will pivot the front down. But that's the idea anyway. But whoever made this rear end before, they didn't get it perfectly straight. We've changed the seals in them, and they still leak fluid at the ends, and I'm thinking it's because the rear end's not straight. But you could cut them braces off. I don't know if you can see it or not, but we could cut the braces off and then return it. But he's buying a whole new housing that's going to be made for this car, so we'll worry about welding that on correctly and getting the pinion angle right when we do that, which will probably be this winter. So for now, we're going to try to use these shims to get the pinion angle back where it should be. Just make sure, jack it up from the rear end, put your jack stands where it's not going to be holding anything when you let the rear end down, because you're going to have to jack the rear end up and down to get the shims in. So I'm going to try to loosen the 4 U-joint bolts with the nuts on the end there, and then I'll jack the rear end up, hopefully give me enough room to put these in. I've seen a lot of cases where people had to drill out the center hole, but we'll see that once we get there. Now, I loosened all 4 nuts on each side for the 2 U-joints on each side. There's 2 of those on each side, and 4 nuts that hold them on. And then I jack the rear end up and it comes apart, and that's what we've got. So unfortunately, like I was saying earlier, that hole and that isn't big enough for that piece there. You can't hardly see in there. But that piece has got to go up in the mount too, up into this too. So I think I can unscrew that and make it longer. Actually, I think that's an Allen head, honestly. You know, if that is, I could just get a longer bolt if that one isn't long enough, and stick it straight through the shim, and then that piece of the bolt can go up inside the mount. But that way it holds everything. Battery went dead, we lost lighting. But yeah, I'm going to take that. That looks like an Allen head. I'm going to take that out and see if it's long enough, and if I'll get a bolt that'll fit through that hole. Get a bolt with a head like that, big enough that'll fit up into the, I forgot what that piece is called, that welds to the rear end. But anyway, yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna take that middle bolt out and see what we got then. Alright, so I took it further apart. I had to take that. There's a bolt that goes through this and a nut on the other end. And that bolt just helps line everything up. It goes in that hole right there. Not sure how you can see that. Yeah, right there. It kind of lines everything up. But now when you put the shim on there, that's got to go through the shim, and the bolt that come out of that hole was too big for my shim, so I either need to drill the it's just barely too big. It's like 1 millimeter too big, but I either going to have to drill out the shim or just get a smaller bolt to go through there, because the bolt has to go through the shim too, so the bolt part can stick up to go in that hole to line everything up. So I sent my son-in-law to Ace Hardware because I get off work today and Ace is going to be closed, so I sent him down there to get me a bolt and a nut that was big enough to fit through the shim and long enough. I had to get a longer bolt too. The bolt had to be longer as well to, you know, for the extra thickness of the shim. So that's where we're at right now. So we needed the shim this way because we need to raise the back of the rear end and make the front of the rear end go down. So I just got a smaller bolt, which fits really well. It still fits in the hole real good. And I wanted one just a little bit shorter, but unfortunately that's the only length they had with the Allen head on it. But that shim also has a little lipped area, so the bolt can fit flat down in there, so you want that part up. But I'm going to tighten that up and put this side somewhat back together, but just leave enough room where I can jack the other side up and do the other side. Alright, I got it nice and tightened down, nice and tight. And that's going to go down in there. So there's plenty of room. It's not going to hit that, but if it was too long, I just take my angle grinder and grind it off. But the most important thing, when you put that shim on there, make sure you get it nice and straight with the leaf spring. And when you order those, you want to make sure you get the same width as your leaf spring too. Now, as far as how much it's going to change the pinion angle, I'm not sure. That's a 6 or 8, and we was 10 degrees up, so we'll figure it out once I put it back on there. Alright, got my son-in-law Jacob helping me out a little bit here. We got this shim installed, and there it is right on the Allen to line everything up. We're just tightening up the U-bolts. Also, on these U-bolts, when you do this, usually you need longer U-bolts. He'd already had the longer U-bolts for this car, so. But yeah, we put the shim in, and look. I know the car's not on the ground or anything like that, but you can look at the drive shaft angle and tell that's a lot better than it was. Way better. Yeah. So when it twists up, it should be dead even now. So, but we're going to tighten everything back up, put it on the ground, then see how it looks. Alright. It got dark on me. I didn't start working on this till about 7:30. About 9:30 right now, which I take frequent breaks. I usually work on it by myself, but stepson helped me a little. Got that side all back together, the shocks, the cow track. Got all 4 bolts in. Got the pinion shim in. Probably see it better on this side. I think you can see it there. Just like that. And the other side's the same way, but in relation to the drive shaft, look at that. So the pinion's going down a little bit compared to the drive shaft. So when that takes off, it'll flex up a couple of degrees and it'll be perfectly straight, which is what we want. Before, that pinion angle was facing way up. It was like 10 degrees up compared to the drive shaft. So I honestly don't know how this thing didn't have real bad vibration. This was a 6 or 8 pinion shim. I can't remember which, but just eyeballing that, it looks like it moved at about 12 degrees. But I'm gonna put the tire on it, set it on the ground. I got the Caltrax loose, and I'm gonna set the Caltrax as soon as I read up on that and figure out how. I know, like that piece back there, it comes up off the leaf spring, and then this way it goes down on the leaf spring. I don't know if you want that tight on the leaf spring with it on the ground. I don't know if you want like a space there, or I don't know. So that's something I'll have to research. So, but yeah, it's pretty simple. Take these 4 U-joint bolts out, and these things are a pain to get in and out because they separate when you loosen them up. So they rub right up against the bracket as you're trying to pull them out, and they're hard to get out and in. But I had to take this out. I had to take the sway bar off right here. I had to take the sway bar off here. I had to take the Caltrax off, which is a lower control arm, and these 4 bolts out. Raise the rear end up with the jack there. Got a longer bolt. See that nut goes in that hole. It just kind of helps line everything up. I had to get a longer bolt for the pinion shim there. The other one wasn't long enough, so I just got a longer bolt, and that bolt sticks up. And I don't know if you can, let's see if you can see it down from the top here. Yeah, see how the bolt sticks up through that middle hole. Now it ain't dead even there, but it just kind of helps line everything up. That hole is bigger than the nut, so not going to be perfect. And then there it is on the bottom. And then it kind of squeezes the leaf springs together too right there, which all this squeezes it together too. So that bolt's in there just to line everything up. The only thing I can think of, because these big bolts, they smash everything up to that to that piece there that goes on the rear end. For the life of me, I can't remember what that's called, but anyway, this rear end, whoever he had done it, he just had some guy do it from some shop, but I don't think he got the tubes straight, because the tubes leak a little on both sides, and we've changed seals, we've done everything, and they still leak. So I don't know what the deal is there, which I've heard it's common for these Ford big ends to leak a little, but these leak a little bit more than they should. But the housings for these cars, they ain't that expensive really, so he's just going to get another housing that's made for this car. And when we weld this piece onto the rear end, we're going to make sure that we get the pinion angle and everything straight before we weld it on there. And I'll keep the old bolts for the leaf spring that guides all that. I'll keep those for when we do that, which we can just go to the parts store and get new ones, but either way. And he's got all these washers in here. These U-joints are really long, but I don't know if you really needed the washers after we put that shim in there, but I put them on there anyway because it was easier to get the wrench in there, because I didn't have a deep well. I think these are 7/8. I haven't had it have a deep well, so I was having to use a wrench on those. So it was really hard if the nut was way up here because of this bracket. So I just put the washers back on, which is not a big deal. That's a lot of washers, but it's under the car. Nobody's gonna see it. But anyway, that's what we got, and I really like the look of that pinion angle in relationship to the drive shaft. So, put the tires on, set her back down, set these cow tracks. Call her done. That's it. Pinion shims for changing the pinion angle. Now, of course, if we wanted the pinion angle to go the other way, we would have put the shims from the opposite direction. So, but you just got to figure out that it actually moves it more than the degree of the shim. So you can't say, oh, it's 8 degrees out, I need 8 degrees shim. It don't work like that. I'd say an 8 probably moves at about 12 on this one, but I mean, there's other factors that play a role, but basically on this one, and I'm going to measure it, but it looks like it moved at about 10 to 12 degrees to me in relationship to that drive shaft. Anyway, that's it.
So here are the directions on how to set the cow tracks. So I'm going to do this tonight when I get off work, and then after that I'm going to take it to the drag strip and do some motor passes and make sure it launches straight and nothing comes apart on me. And then the weekend after that, my son's coming up from Texas, and we're going to do a heads-up quarter-mile race, streetcar kind of thing, but it is capped at a 10-second quarter mile, which we've only ran at 10.2, but I'm pretty sure this car's got a 9 in it. We gotta mess with the suspension a little bit and get the nitrous to hook a little bit better coming out of the hole. And he's got them 6-7-year-old 26x10 slicks, and he ordered some slicks, but everything's on back order due to COVID. I don't think we're going to get those in time, but we have the tire pressure on them slicks at, I think it was 16 pounds. So we can go as low as 12. I'd feel comfortable going as low as 12, so we can lower those 12. And there's a bunch of adjustment left in those double adjustable shocks that are on the front of the car. So we can soften the rebound up quite a bit as well to help it get some traction. So we'll test and tune the nitrous the Friday that he comes up, which is, I think, the 25th. Yeah, 25th. And then the 26th is the race at Clay City. So that's what we're going to do. Hopefully we can, if those tires don't come in, hopefully we can get these old 26x10s to stick with just some tire pressure and suspension adjustments. But we'll make some videos of that. See how it does.